Good morning. I'm Cathy Miller, Stockton City Council member and Board Director for the League of California Cities. I'm here today with other San Joaquin County leaders because we are infuriated that once again, Sacramento is trying to negate local control and force California cities to do what the state wants. SB7, if passed, would prohibit a charter city from receiving or using state funding, state grants, or any other type of financial assistance from the state for a construction project if that city's charter does not require compliance with state prevailing wage requirements on all local construction projects, even those funded only with city's local funds. Stockton already chooses to spend millions of dollars per year to maintain our streets and our parks based on the priorities that we have identified in our own community. We want to maintain our ability to strategically deploy our scarce resources based on our needs and priorities and not be held hostage by state mandates. Under SB7, our discretion would be taken away, and we could be forced to cut services or funding to priority areas just so that we could continue to receive state funding for completely unrelated projects. Stockton's charter was written by and voted on by our citizens. SB7 ignores the voters' rights to set their guidelines on how to spend their own local tax dollars. We understand that state funds come with a lot of strings attached. And one of those strings is that if a construction project uses any state funds, then the contractor must comply with state prevailing wage requirements. But as a charter city, the courts have ruled that we have the authority when using only city funds to not require prevailing wage requirements. Our practice in Stockton has been to follow prevailing wage requirements on all our projects, not by policy, but by practice. Exceptions have been made for very small projects, typically emergency repairs. And we've made these exceptions so that we can efficiently make these small but very important repairs, and we contract them out to our smaller local firms with a diverse workforce. SB7 is not about prevailing wage. It is about eliminating the legal rights of cities to make local decisions without pressure or interference from Sacramento. Today, we are here asking the residents of Stockton and San Joaquin County to contact their legislators and tell them to vote no on Senate Bill 7. I would now like to introduce Stockton City Council member, my friend Albert Homman.
Thank you, Cathy. As Cathy said, my name is Albert Homman, and I am a member of the Stockton City Council. I joined Cathy and my colleagues standing behind me in the protest of this bill. I just want to inform you of something. Just last year, the California Supreme Court made it clear that the state legislature may not enact a statute that requires a charter city to comply with state prevailing wage law on all of its public works contracts. Make no mistake about this. SB7 is an attempt to get around this decision. SB7 erodes the fundamental principle of local control, and it challenges the constitutional limits on state authority. And so make no mistake about this. This is all about local control. There's no secret about the economic woes that have been affecting cities throughout the state of California, but in particular, the Central Valley. And cities like Stockton, Modesto, Merced, they could lose hundreds of thousands of dollars in state funding that would shut down very important and vital construction projects. Things like repairs to make routes to schools safer, water system improvements. We cannot afford at all to have any of these important public works projects held up just because the legislature wants to punish cities for exercising local control that was granted to them by the voters. And so we, standing here today on the steps of the City Hall of Stockton, California, we urge the legislature to abandon this bill and the governor to veto it should it reach his desk. I had personal experience with cities trying to right itself after the devastating recession that we have just experienced. It would be devastating for a city like Stockton to have to comply with the provisions of a bill like this as we try to reinvent ourselves and try to put our community back in order. And so I personally am asking all those that are within the sound of my voice, citizens of Stockton, California, to contact your legislature. Tell them to vote no on SB7. And I will now turn the microphone over to Lodi City Council member Joanne Mounts.
Thank you so much. Hi, I'm Joanne Mounts, council member, City of Lodi, and I'm going to speak a little bit to a different tone. You know, the City of Lodi is not a charter city. However, we are affected day in and day out by the mandates and decisions that the state legislators are passing upon cities across the state of California. You know, I'm often reminded of how hard it is to provide services to the citizens of our community. And we have to be accountable for things like water meters and other mandates that the state of California passes upon cities without funding. And then citizens have to pay for that. SB7 is just another example of our state legislators whittling away at our control. You know, as voters, we depend on our council members, and we've been elected by the people. And quite frankly, we've been elected with more popularity than the state legislators have. So I ask you, when you go to the ballots, remember what the state legislators are doing to whittle away at our local control, and keep that in mind when you're in the ballot box. In addition to that, I would like to maybe plead to the softer side of some of our legislators. Susan Eggman, for example, was a council member right here in Stockton. And as we all know, our governor was a council member and mayor in the city of Oakland. I ask you, legislators and governor, how was it like when the state legislator whittled away at your control? And keep that in mind when you look at passing SB7. And by all means, say no. And now I'm going to turn this over to Steve Crabtree with the Greater Stockton Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Joanne. As Joanne said, I'm Steve Crabtree. I'm the current president of the Greater Stockton Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here representing almost 1,000 business members of our association. Our Government Relations Committee has reviewed SB7, and we have taken a no position on that legislation. In business, our members strive to deliver a quality product or services to their customers, and we have to do that at a competitive price. For chamber members, we feel our government should function in the same way. SB7 punishes local governments like charter cities for doing the very same thing that private industry does on a day in and day out basis. Business owners invest in communities where we see economic potential and that have vibrant opportunities, where we can see our families grow with that potential for opportunity. It's offensive when the state deprives our community of state resources for political purposes. Charter cities like Stockton use the flexibility provided under their charters to construct public work projects that make our communities better places to live. Furthermore, it is good practice to spend those local dollars as efficiently as possible. This is just another example of Sacramento attempting to push cities around and to take control from the people who know what's best for our own local communities. We stand with our local cities as the Chamber of Commerce and for our residents to oppose SB7. I would like to now turn it over to John Beckman with the Greater Valley BIA.
Good morning, I'm John Beckman. I'm the CEO of the Building Industry Association of the Greater Valley. The BIA is opposed to SB7 because of its restrictions on local control. SB7 attacks the fundamental principles that the best government is the one closest to the people. SB7 erodes the constitutional limits on statutory authority over charter cities. Those are the reasons that the BIA is opposed to SB7, and we ask the citizens of Stockton to contact their local legislators and ask them to vote no on SB7. I'd now like to introduce Tracy City Council member Mike Maciel.
Good morning, I'm Mike Maciel, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Tracy, and I'm not representing an official position of the Tracy City Council or the city. Tracy, like Lodi, is not a charter city. So you might ask, well, why do you care about this? This applies to charter cities. My concern is the ongoing disenfranchisement of the voters of California by Sacramento. This is a glaring example in SB7 of where the voters of Vista, following all provisions of the law, voted a position where they did not have to follow prevailing wage. They faced a lawsuit, they won the lawsuit, and the reaction from Sacramento is, we're going to change the law. As a local elected official, I have grave concerns over the ongoing onslaught from Sacramento over local control. As local elected officials, we are accessible to the voters. My phone number is in the phone book. People in my community call me out all the time about concerns. SB7 is just another example of Sacramento imposing its will. We have numerous regulatory provisions out of Sacramento that the end result is taking control over land use decisions away from the local governing bodies and dictated by Sacramento. The unfunded mandates, it is an ongoing litany of issues from Sacramento undermining the ability and the authority of the local communities. I strongly urge anyone concerned about this trend to contact their legislators and ask them to vote no on SB7. And I'd like Dave Renison of the San Joaquin County Taxpayers Association to offer his opinion on this issue.
Thank you, Mike. My name is David Renison. I'm the president of the San Joaquin County Taxpayers Association. Stockton and 120 other charter cities in California have been given protections on local controls by the state constitution and by a recent Supreme Court ruling. SB7 is just another intrusion by the state into the affairs of local government, and it would take away those protections from us. I urge Stockton residents to contact your representatives and tell them to vote no on SB7. And I'll turn the microphone back over to Cathy Moore.
We understand that local control is sort of it's a concept out there that maybe doesn't resonate with a lot of people who really aren't too sure what that means. And what it really comes down to is those of us who live in our communities and volunteer and work and care about our communities, we should be making the decisions through our local electeds for what's best for our communities. Those kinds of decisions should not be made by people far away from us who don't care and don't understand our particular local issues. This bill, Senate Bill 7, needs to be defeated, either in the Assembly, in the Senate, by the governor if it reaches him. We urge the Assembly to vote no on this bill. We're now going to open this up to any questions from the media, and we'd like to thank you all for being here today. Thank you.